as I put here originally.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, next slide, please. Welcome, everyone. We really appreciate you being here for this RGGI stakeholder session. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and we have some microphones and cameras around the room. Given their sensitivity, we do ask that folks try to limit background noise. We're going to have a designated Q&A at the end of this session, and we will take questions from folks in the room and then questions from folks on the phone using the Slido Q&A feature. To activate the Slido panel within the webinar, you're going to click the 3 dots in the lower right corner of the webinar window and select Slido. You'll also see instructions on the screen. Please feel free to submit your questions and comments throughout the session. If you have any technical issues during this session, please flag them for Adam Hawk, whose email is listed on the screen. And just as a reminder, we're going to post this presentation on NYSERDA's website within a few business days. Next slide, please. So before we dive in, we're going to preview our agenda for today. We will start with opening remarks from NYSERDA's President and CEO, Doreen Harris, as well as the Department of Environmental Conservation's Deputy Commissioner for Climate, Air, and Energy, Sanjay Seth. Then we'll draw on a deep bench of NYSERDA team members who will share information about our funding assumptions and proposed program investments. And then finally, we will have a discussion section, which includes Q&A, before wrapping up with our next steps, including the public comment period leading up to our NYSERDA board meeting. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. With that, I want to invite Doreen Harris, NYSERDA's President and CEO, to offer her opening remarks, followed by DEC's Deputy Commissioner for Climate, Air, and Energy, Sanjay Seth.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for coming together today to discuss the future of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, or RGGI, and its role in New York's clean energy transition. We're specifically here to review the draft RGGI Operating Plan Amendment for 2026, which was posted on our website earlier this week, and for which we are accepting public comments before the plan is presented to the NYSERDA board for finalization at our January 2026 board meeting. As we look ahead to 2026, through this operating plan amendment, New York seeks to achieve 2 fundamental objectives for RGGI. First, consistent with the authorized uses of RGGI, we will continue to push for expanded adoption of energy efficient technologies, renewable or non-carbon emitting technologies, and innovative carbon emissions abatement technologies. And second, we will continue to align our RGGI investments with the state and Governor Hochul's priorities. As I'll discuss shortly, we are focusing our programmatic investments on the core New York State priorities, which were just highlighted in the State Energy Plan, which was approved on Tuesday, including improving the reliability of New York State's energy systems, protecting consumers from market price volatility, minimizing the cost of energy services, minimizing public health and environmental impacts, maximizing energy conservation, and supporting economic development as key pillars. And we are leading with a focus on affordability so that the programmatic investments we are making to help all New Yorkers to be able to control and lower their energy costs. RGGI is serving its primary purpose and has been instrumental in driving down emissions from power plants across the region, providing one of the most reliable and cost-effective pathways for reducing carbon while supporting the clean energy transition. Before we turn to today's operating plan amendment, I want to briefly ground us in the broader RGGI process. So today's session serves as our public meeting for this year's operating plan amendment. Following today's discussion, we will open a public comment period. We've extended the timeline through January 9th in account of the holiday week. Then, after reviewing stakeholder input, we will bring a final operating plan amendment to NYSERDA's board for consideration and approval in late January. In addition, as many of you know, outcomes from the most recent RGGI program review become applicable starting in January 2027. So very shortly, Deputy Commissioner Sanjay Seth will be walking through the most important elements of that review. RGGI certainly is critical to New York's ability to drive meaningful clean energy impact, and its strengths are reflected in how we structure our investments. With today's presentation, we are pleased to share our proposed amendment, which guides our investments for the next 3 fiscal years. We've organized our planning investments into 4 themes that align with our state's priorities. Those themes are affordability, energy abundance, diversity, and reliability, energy innovation and economic development, and thriving communities and environments. You'll hear more detail about these categories from the NYSERDA team members shortly, but on the topic of affordability and this year's operating plan amendment, we are leading with a focus on affordability in 2 clear ways. First, we are proposing that 62% of planned RGGI programmatic investments under the 4 themes go to programs under the affordability theme. And second, we are introducing a new affordability strategy to balance the need to achieve robust portfolio benefits and promote consumer affordability through a new mechanism which the team will describe. So your feedback is invaluable as we refine this plan, and I do appreciate your participation today as well as the comments that you will provide. And with that, I'll turn to DEC Deputy Commissioner Sanjay Seth, who will share perspectives from our regulatory partner and speak to the recent program review. Sanjay.
All right, thank you, Doreen. Good afternoon, everyone. As Doreen said, I recently started as Deputy Commissioner for Climate, Air, and Energy at DEC. I oversee the department's division of Air Resources and Office of Climate Change. DEC partners with NYSERDA in the implementation of the RGGI program, and I've been asked to share some information today about the outcomes of RGGI's most recent program review. But before I do that, I just want to reflect on one way in which RGGI has improved quality of life for New Yorkers, and that's affordability. You know, New York has received nearly $3 billion in proceeds from RGGI auctions and has invested already about $2 billion of that so far. As a result of just $2 billion in investment, RGGI will deliver nearly $12 billion in lifetime bill savings for participating customers. And that's a 6-to-1 return on investment to help bring energy costs down while advancing our climate and clean air goals. And the program has produced billions in benefits to New Yorkers for their health too. You know, as a multi-state cap and invest program, RGGI is a living example of how we can advance affordability, reliability, public health, innovation, and economic development while tackling the climate crisis. And so, you know, to the main updates, first, as many of you likely know, last week, NYSERDA and DEC announced our proposed regulations to strengthen RGGI based on the model rule that was agreed upon by the RGGI states earlier this year, I believe in July. And we will be accepting public comments on these proposed regulations through February 17th, 2026. And we'll have a couple of public hearings in the mix there too in February. So following the public comment period, we'll work to respond to the comments and anticipate adopting final regulations next year to strengthen RGGI. In terms of the program review, let's get into the major changes. As part of the 3rd program review, the RGGI states agreed to the following. We all agreed to increase our ambition by setting a declining RGGI emissions cap trajectory from 2027 to 2037. So that means over the decade program review cycle, we'll be really bringing down our emissions. We're also protecting affordability and ensuring the availability of allowances by increasing the size of something called the cost containment reserve and establishing a 2nd tier of cost containment reserve allowances. And that'll just protect the market from price volatility and make sure there's sufficient allowances in the market. And then 3rd, we're streamlining the program by removing something called the emissions containment reserve, a lower end of the price, and then removing the use of offsets for compliance. So these updates we see as providing stability and certainty to market participants. The updates will ensure sufficient allowances are available to meet expected energy demand while bolstering price protections for consumers. And the outcomes of the program review, just to kind of help folks who are, maybe have less context for it, it's actually a consensus process among all of the RGGI states. And it's something we do regularly. And so we'll actually begin our next program review process no later than 2028, where we're going to have an opportunity to make as many adjustments as we need given the changing climate. So just on behalf of Commissioner Lefton, from DEC. Thank you to Doreen and the NYSERDA team for your partnership on implementing the RGGI program in New York. I look forward to learning more about NYSERDA's draft operating plan amendment being discussed today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. With that, we're going to turn to our next section. So next slide, please. And next slide. And with this, I want to invite...
Sorry to butt in. I'm getting texts from folks that they say they're unable to see on Zoom. They're waiting for others to join. So I don't know if that's actually occurring, but just wanted to flag that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sanjay. Our tech team is looking into it in real time now. So with that, I want to take a moment to invite Pam Passan, our Chief Financial Officer at NYSERDA, as well as Anthony Fiore, our Chief Program Officer, to speak about our funding assumptions and our investment planning strategy. And we'll do some tech troubleshooting in the background as needed. Pam?
Thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon. So we continue our practice of developing the RGGI operating plan amendment to reflect updated expectations for this year and the 3 fiscal years thereafter. That time horizon helps us maintain program momentum while also providing a line of sight to communities, households, and businesses regarding our intended programmatic focus. Feeding into this plan amendment are consistent, conservative assumptions about the allowance auction proceeds to be realized during the planning window, using an average of recent past auctions. We regularly revisit that look-back window to ensure that we're using realistic assumptions that reflect current conditions. Given the recent program review, this year the look-back window was updated to use the allowance price of the last 4 auctions that closed before the plan was finalized. Those 4 auctions through September of 2025 result in an assumed price of $20.42 per allowance, which you see reflected in the fiscal year 28 and 29 revenue calculations in the plan. Note that for the fiscal year 27 allowance proceeds, this assumed price sits above the cost containment reserve level that would be in effect at that time. So projected revenues for fiscal year 27 thus incorporate additional allowances that are expected to be released if that CCR is exceeded, and reflect a blended allowance price that takes those additional allowances into account. In concert with the development of the operating plan for the next 3 fiscal years, we have, as per precedent, also updated this fiscal year's estimates to reflect an average allowance price based on the combination of the June 2025 and September 2025 actual allowance prices and the modeled $20.42 price for the 2 subsequent auctions. Should we find that the December 25 and March 26 auctions combined result in actual proceeds that are materially above that plan assumption, funding will be allocated in accordance with the methodology that's described in the Opportunities for Other Allocation section of the plan document. Finally, I should caveat that prices reflected in this plan, as well as potential interest earnings, are estimates, from which actual results could vary materially, both up and down. That's yet another reason that we model conservatively to minimize the potential risk to program momentum of market changes. With that, I now turn to our Chief Program Officer, Anthony Fiore, to describe the strategy to turn these proceeds into impactful investments.
Next slide, please.
Thanks, Pam. As Doreen shared, for this year's operating plan amendment, we have organized our planned RGGI investments under 4 themes to highlight how we use RGGI in ways that are fundamentally aligned with core state priorities. Those are affordability, energy abundance, diversity, and reliability, energy innovation and economic development, and finally, thriving communities and environments. Now, while some programs serve multiple themes, based on the work involved, we place them under their primary theme so that every program is fitting into a single theme. In addition to coding RGGI programs by theme, we have also taken the opportunity to strategically aggregate or adjust the name of selected programs where doing so helped group like work together and/or most accurately describe the work. The intent was to make it easier for stakeholders to understand how related work fits together. For a crosswalk of the legacy RGGI program names and the current RGGI program names, please refer to Appendix 3 in the operating plan amendment. Next slide, please. Thank you. Also, as kind of alluded to earlier, RGGI historically has been a key component of New York's affordability agenda, providing important funding for a range of energy efficiency and clean energy programs that offer the opportunity for all New Yorkers to be able to control and lower their energy costs. In addition, in this operating plan amendment, we are proposing approximately 60% of the Plan RGGI programmatic investments under the 4 themes go to programs under the affordability theme. Introducing a new affordability strategy to balance the need to achieve robust portfolio benefits and promote consumer affordability. And namely, that's if additional RGGI auction proceeds are realized above those expected from the assumptions that have been used in this amendment to estimate auction proceeds for the next 3 fiscal years, we will use a percentage of those proceeds, 34%, to implement ratepayer-funded programs, prompting DPS and LIPA to reduce ratepayer collections by a proportionate amount. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so along with the approximately 60% of Plan RGGI programmatic investments going to programs under the affordability theme, 11% of the programmatic dollars will be allocated to programs under energy abundance, diversity, and reliability, 16% to energy innovation and economic development, and 11% under thriving communities and environments. With that, I'll hand it off to Catherine, who will take us through the programmatic investments by theme.
Thank you, Anthony. So as Anthony mentioned, we'll do a walkthrough of our key planned investments over the next 3 years, starting with our investments under the affordability theme. And with that, we're going to start off with Courtney Moriarta to cover the Empower program. Next slide, please.
Yep, thanks, Catherine. So the Empower Plus program provides energy efficiency and electrification incentives for our low and moderate income homeowners statewide. We directly reduce participant home energy needs with a focus on permanent energy efficiency measures and also with electrification of heating and hot water end uses in multiple applications. One of the benefits of using the RGGI funding is that it allows us to leverage multiple funding sources and serve a broader range of these LMI customers than we would be able to address with ratepayer funding alone. For example, some of the customers of municipal utilities who we couldn't normally serve through existing ratepayer funds. We're also able to serve customers with delivered fuels for heating and hot water as well. And with that, I'll hand it over to, I believe, Michael Reed.
Yes.
Next slide.
Hello. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, great. So the next program area is new construction and thermal energy networks. RGGI funding will be used to continue supporting high performance technologies as well as for new construction, design support, and for neighborhood scale decarbonization, such as thermal energy networks. This program supports this work through rebates, trainings, and tools, and funding demonstration projects, including a new residential new construction heat pump rebate. Next slide, please. For the affordable multifamily buildings programs, RGGI funding will be used to invest in energy efficiency and building electrification projects for the affordable multifamily sector. This year, we are excited to be launching a new upstate affordable multifamily program offering that will use RGGI funds to support income eligible properties that do not pay into the system benefit charge. And with this, I will pass it over to my colleague, Jamie Marcotte, to talk about retrofit challenges.
Thank you, Michael.
So RGGI funding will also be used to continue investing in retrofitting existing buildings by offering installation funds via challenges and other competitions, especially for hard to decarbonize existing buildings. This funding will be focused on supporting the industrial and hospital sectors, continuing support for heat pumps in the multifamily sector, and investments in our Clean Green Schools program. Next slide, please. Additionally, NYSERDA will continue to invest in critical technical assistance programs to help multifamily, commercial, institutional, agricultural, and industrial customers identify cost-effective energy upgrades through the delivery of energy master plans, feasibility studies, and phased decarbonization recommendations.
Thank you, Jamie. Next up, we'll hear from Luis Aguirre-Torres on Green Jobs, Green New York.
Thank you, Catherine. RGGI funding will be leveraged to incentivize private investment and continue supporting the Green Jobs, Green New York program, which was created under the Green Jobs, Green New York Act of 2009. This program provides New Yorkers with access to energy assessments and low-interest financing for associated installation services. RGGI allocation to Green Jobs, Green New York for low-cost consumer loans has tended to accelerate energy efficiency and distributed generation solar measures, while providing a means to recycle capital to boost program benefits of each dollar invested.
Thank you, Luis. And to round out the affordability theme, we'll now hear from Corey Nicosia on consumer education uptake and experience.
Thank you, Catherine. RGGI funding under this section will be used to increase consumers' awareness and grow their familiarity with the ways in which they can improve the efficiency, health, safety, and comfort of their homes in an affordable manner, included by investing in marketing campaigns and enhanced consumer engagement and intake tools. Looking forward, we'll be running marketing campaigns communicating a weatherization first approach, promoting the benefits of implementing highly efficient electrification measures. When paired with our investment in simplifying the customer experience through enhancements to the My Energy portal, we believe this work will help more New Yorkers make educated and informed decisions about making upgrades to their homes. Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone. Next up, we are turning to the investments under the energy abundance, diversity, and reliability theme. To start us off here, we're going to go to Greg Lampin to discuss large-scale generation programs. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon. RGGI funding under this category would be used to make necessary investments in two different initiatives supporting large-scale electricity generation in New York. For offshore wind, we've been facing headwinds which have slowed investment in the development of projects. Funds here would be used to support co-investment in offshore wind projects to continue project development along the timeline. The intent is three specific outcomes. The first is to increase our likelihood of achieving federal investment tax credits, which could result in billions of dollars of ratepayer savings for each individual project that achieves that tax credit. Secondarily, we want to reduce the risks of projects which result in risk premiums that get passed along to ratepayers. So progressing projects down that pipeline can reduce those risk premiums, saving ratepayer money. Additionally, reduced risks means increased viability, resulting in projects that once contracted ultimately get built and provide that clean energy to New York. The second initiative is around advanced nuclear generation projects. The growth of this industry has resulted in a lot of opportunities around economic development for New York. These funds would be used to invest in an advanced nuclear supply chain to ensure that we are manufacturing the products and providing the services to support the development of the industry in New York, as well as elsewhere in the country. Further, we want to make investments in the workforce development community so that we can ensure that we have the skilled workforce to both build and operate these facilities. We would do that in close coordination with the New York Power Authority's efforts on the same front. And finally, we want to work with communities to ensure that we can identify and assess potential nuclear project sites, inform them of the opportunities that nuclear energy presents, and understand their concerns with this resource.
Thank you, Greg. All right, next slide. Next, we'll hear from Haiyan Sun to walk through Advanced Fuels Innovation Program.
Good afternoon, everyone. So for Advanced Fuels Program, we will use the RGGI funding to continue supporting research studies or demonstration projects for the advanced fuels such as biofuels or renewable fuels, including renewable natural gas, renewable diesel, or sustainable aviation fuels. We will use the RGGI investment to focus on low carbon fuel production from the waste resources generated in New York State and enable first-time demonstration projects in the state that can help us decarbonize those hard-to-electrify sectors, such as heavy-duty transportation, high-temperature industrial sectors, or aviation, maritime, and other low-carbon capacity factor from resources. I will pass it to Max for New York Sun program. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This RGGI funding will be used to enable the following groups to access targeted New York Sun incentives. First, low and moderate income households, affordable housing providers, and members of disadvantaged communities under New York's Solar Energy Equity Framework, or SEEF, with the RGGI-funded incentives serving LIPA customers that do not pay into the system benefits charge and other SEEF projects that cannot access PSC-funded incentives. Second, this RGGI funding will be used for non-SBC paying customers of the New York Power Authority, NYPA, and of upstate New York municipal utilities, with the RGGI funded incentives expected to primarily fund solar installations on New York City public schools and other New York City public buildings that are served by NYPA, in addition to residential and commercial installations in the municipal utilities in upstate New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Next, we'll be turning over to Jeremy Magliaro to discuss the agrivoltaics research program.
Thank you. So for additional agrivoltaic research and demonstration projects, we will be further advancing projects that help participating farmers by facilitating solar and agricultural development while maintaining land and agricultural production in different regions all across the state. Funding may also support an evaluation of innovative agrivoltaic systems for potential commercialization and/or deployment support.
Thank you, Jeremy. And to round us out on this theme, we have Hafiz Bello to talk about grid modernization innovation.
Thank you, Catherine. On the grid front, RGGI funds will be used to continue decarbonization and increasing the resilience of our grid. We will support ongoing work with municipal utilities and our rural electric cooperatives to offer energy efficiency and electrification measures to customers who are not able to access PSC-funded programs. We will also offer technical assistance to municipal utilities and the rural electric cooperatives in the state to position them to leverage federal funding from the DOE. Thank you.
Thank you, Hafiz. Next slide, please. Also, as a reminder to folks online, if you do have any questions, you should be able to submit it in the Slido. All right, starting us off, we have the next section on investments under energy innovation and economic development, and we'll be turning to Adam Reuter to cover clean transportation.
Thanks. Good afternoon. With this year's RGGI allocation, we are continuing our support of the vehicle incentives for both electric cars and trucks through the RGGI program, and we are going to be supporting the development of fleet electrification plans for truck and bus fleets, which we found to be one of the most effective ways to help them move their fleets toward electrification and zero emission vehicles and maximize their cost savings.
Thank you, Adam. Next up, we have Carl Moss to talk about energy markets intelligence and statewide planning and implementation.
Great, thank you. Our energy markets intelligence and statewide planning and implementation work allows us to continue the planning necessary to support the Climate Act and associated scoping plan, as well as advance the state energy plan, which we recently published. These funds will also go towards strategic implementation work for both the scoping plan and the state energy plan.
Thank you, Carl. And to round us out on this theme, we have Gillian Black to cover clean energy economy and innovation ecosystem support.
Thank you. RGGI funding will be used to continue to build out the growth of clean tech manufacturing and supply chains throughout New York State. These funds will allow us to invest in clean tech supply chain analyses and continue our partnership with New York State's Empire State Development and entities like NYS. They'll also be used to expand the Build Ready program based on insights gained from the recent program review to help optimize siting and development of new loads and expanding existing loads. Lastly, these funds will also be used to fund studies of regional and statewide economic ecosystems to continue to set New York State up for success to be a clean energy technology development and deployment hub. Thank you. Next slide.
Thanks, Gillian. So our final investment section will focus on investments under the Thriving Communities and Environments theme. Starting us off will be Jason Doling, who will cover clean energy workforce development, clean energy communities, DAC and community engagement, and clean energy siting technical assistance for local governments.
Great, thank you. So for clean energy workforce development, this is really critical work that supplements the funding that's been made available under the energy efficiency and building electrification portfolio, and supports all of the sectors outside of that, including large-scale renewables, energy storage, electric vehicle charging. The other critical area that's supported here is wraparound services. And by that, I mean anything that's not technical training in nature. RGGI is the only source of funding that supports that work through NYSERDA to augment and supplement what's available locally to ensure that individuals have all the skills needed to be successful in a clean energy career. And then finally, there is a new effort underway to help with K-12 student awareness and providing a vehicle into clean energy career exploration that will include developing curriculum, educator resources, training for teachers, guidance counselors, and other educators. And thank you for all the participants that helped with developing that program. On the next slide, our Clean Energy Communities program will continue with RGGI support being used to provide the core services that are needed for technical support, so the coordinator network throughout the state, as well as supporting the high impact actions that many have grown to appreciate and use, where the ratepayer funding through the EEBE portfolio will support a new model of cohorts coming together, like-minded communities coming together to work on broader decarbonization. On our next slide, our DAC and community engagement is going to support a few critical areas. First is continuing to fund and augment the regional clean energy hubs. There are 12 of those in the state, 3 in New York City, and that funding supplements ratepayer support for the hubs, but also importantly allows work to occur on a statewide basis by supporting the Long Island hub, where SBC is not the case. This also supports language access services, so translation and interpretation, so that when hub staff are out working with community residents, or community residents are engaging with our contractor networks, we're able to ensure that language does not serve as a barrier for helping people benefit from these services in terms of affordability and clean energy in their homes and businesses. And then finally, a limited amount of funding will continue to be used to provide compensation when we're engaging with DAC individuals and community-based groups, so that we are paying for their time and expertise. Finally, the clean energy siting technical assistance for local governments. This is when our siting team and subject matter experts go out to work with municipalities, local governments, and residents to understand concerns they may have around particular solutions, and to help with model laws and understanding the benefits of clean energy. In particular, this supports fire safety training work that we do, including with the City of New York, and as well as meeting the benefits of the Cited Act by providing public forums across the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next up, we'll turn it back to Carl to discuss environmental, energy, social science, and climate resiliency research and implementation.
Great, thank you. So funding in this area will be used for climate resiliency research and technical assistance for implementation planning, including support for the first phase of the State Adaptation and Resilience Plan, and funding demonstration projects to identify approaches necessary to ensure investments in clean energy are resilient to extreme weather and can continue to deliver benefits over time in a changing climate. We will also continue to establish a research framework to study the social dimensions of an equitable and inclusive clean energy transition.
Thanks, Carl. And to close us out with this theme, we'll invite Amy Casamuzio to talk about the Supplier Education and Qualification Program.
Thank you. We will be investing RGGI funds to continue improving the quality and performance and therefore improved customer confidence in New York State clean energy marketplace. This work is done through our Energy Project Quality Assurance and our Quality Energy Contractor Designation programs. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Next slide, please. So we'll now close out with a summary of our directed program investments. Next slide, please. We do have 2 directed investments in this plan. First, we will continue to allocate funds for the Electric Generation Facility Mitigation Program, which is a program designed to support transitioning communities that have been reliant on fossil fuel power plants as a source of financial support. And second, we have a transfer to the Environmental Protection Fund for annual funding to support EPF programs that advance New York's leadership in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, such as climate smart communities, smart growth, greenhouse gas management, so on. This amendment represents an approximation of the transfer amount that will be subsequently finalized in FY 26-27 state budget and assumes that NYSERDA will be similarly directed for the upcoming fiscal years. This has preliminarily increased from $5 million a year in last year's plan to $10 million a year in this plan. Pass it back to Sarah.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So now we are going to turn to some discussion and Q&A as promised. We will use this next section to hear from you, our New York State stakeholders, regarding your thoughts and questions on what we have proposed. So we're going to go in order and start with any questions from folks in the room. We'll just confirm that there are none from folks here, and then turn to the questions that have been submitted using the Q&A feature. If you want to submit a question, we encourage you to go ahead and do that. We'll take the questions in the order that we've received them. I'll read the question out so everyone can be aware of it, and then we'll have the appropriate member of our team respond. So taking a quick scan around the room, no questions here. So we're going to turn to the questions that we've received through the chat. So I'll go ahead and answer the first one, which is from Nick. Will this video be made available publicly? The answer is yes. We will be posting both these slides and this recording in the next 24 hours. Okay, next question, Michael Reed. If all right, I'm going to call on you. Will the Affordable Multifamily Buildings Program funds also be made available for downstate and meet non-systems benefit charge paying customers? Michael.
Hi, Martha. Thanks for your question. So we are definitely working to make the affordable multifamily RGGI allocation something that can support multifamily buildings in the downstate territory. I would also offer that the allocation that goes to LIPA from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative funds programs that LIPA runs to support affordable multifamily buildings in their territories. And the retrofit challenges work that Jamie was talking about, as well as the buildings technical assistance work, both of those programs are statewide and support affordable multifamily buildings. Back to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, Michael. So the next question came in from Adam Flint. We have been doing clean energy career awareness work for some time, but our funding is waning. When and how will funds through this new initiative be accessed? With the note that we are also doing similar programming in DACs. So Jason, I'm going to go ahead and call on you for that question.
Okay, so the funding within here is frankly already on the street with the exception of the K-12 through our existing programs. So the on-the-job training program, the workforce training solicitations that are currently available, the internship and fellowship solicitation, those are all ongoing and are planned to continue, and this funding will allow that work to go into the future. The K-12 STEM awareness is the new one that will be coming out. It will be towards the second half of this year when that starts to be released.
Thanks so much, Jason. Our next question is from Roger Pieza. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. The question is, RGGI is a program to cap and reduce CO2 emissions. given that fuel switching is responsible for most of the observed reductions and that is no longer a viable emission reduction strategy, has enough funding been allocated to provide the emission reductions needed for future program compliance? And Carl, I'm going to turn to you for that.
Sure, yeah, happy to answer, and thanks for the question. You know, we do see the RGGI funding as being critical to advance the transition of our grid. It's clearly not the only funding stream, but we did highlight through both the large-scale generation programs for offshore wind and nuclear, the advanced fuels programs, where we will see zero-emission technologies coming out of there, our New York Sun programs, our agrivoltaics, and our grid modernization efforts. These are all going to directly and indirectly support our clean energy standard and some of the other programs. I would also hope that we can notice that the energy efficiency programs we're doing will also help the grid. So we both see the direct investments as core supporting policies for the clean energy standard and the indirect benefits from energy efficiency programs.
Thank you so much, Carl. So our next question is also from Adam Flint. For community-based organization and DAC engagement compensation, is there a mechanism whereby we can suggest how NYSERDA will support engagement in new work areas? And Jason, I'm going to go ahead and call on you for that question.
Okay, I will say yes, and the primary mechanism is through the Energy Equity Collaborative. We literally have had monthly meetings for the past number of years with that body. They're compensated for their time and their expertise, and all of the mechanisms related to how individuals within DACs are compensated, our workforce development initiatives and others, including solar and others, have all gone through that body for their feedback. It's a group of approximately 13, again, who meet monthly and quarterly. And there are working groups as well through the collaborative that dive into topical specific areas, and those folks are also compensated for their time.
Thank you so much, Jason. So I'm going to go ahead and read the next question, which is from Samantha Wilt. Understanding that estimated budgets are based on conservative projections of allowance prices for program stability, has there been modeling of scenarios about likely higher allowance prices from the new proposed model rule, given the December 2025 auction at $26 and new proposed rules? Carl, can I turn to you?
Sure, yeah, happy to answer that. Again, thanks for the question. So we have not done any new modeling. I would say the last modeling you can look to is the work done by RGGI Inc. as part of the program review, and those do have indicative price forecasts. We are clearly looking at the current market prices, and those have informed this overall proposal. I will make sure, though, that part of the reason why we have the approach we do is because our RGGI auctions have been volatile in the past, and we need to be prudent as we plan investments. But we do understand that there are upward price pressures, and we are keenly interested in watching those markets.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Carl. I'm going to go ahead and read our next question, which is from William Slade. Given the state energy plan focus on the need to identify practical, dispatchable, emissions-free generation resources, are there funds in this operating plan focused on research related to this important long-term need? Carl, we'll start with you and then turn to others as needed.
Yeah, so I guess I would point specifically to some of the previous speakers that I mentioned earlier. So we do have some specific research activities into offshore wind and nuclear activities. We also are looking at clean fuels research. So again, we do have some specific areas where we're identifying how can we support those dispatchable, clean, firm resources in the future.
And Eric, would you like to complement Carl with any additional information?
I don't feel the need to add to that. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to keep us moving because of time. So next question is also from Martha Sickles. Can the TA for local government siting funds be accessed for education to facilitate education in support of siting of NYPA storage facilities in New York City? So Jen, if okay, I'm going to turn to you.
I'm happy to take that. So generally speaking, the technical assistance under that program is available to all municipalities, including New York City. And energy storage is one of the focuses of our team. And we're already working closely with New York City on energy storage, siting and permitting, regardless of what entity is driving the project. So I would say yes, generally.
Thanks so much, Jen. All right, so next question, which is a continuation of the question shared earlier, also from Samantha Wilt. How much additional revenue would result from those higher prices? What is 34% of the higher revenue? And what bill credits might that yield? So I'm gonna turn to Carl,
Sure.
okay?
Yeah, so again, great question. We have not speculated on what those future market proceeds are going to be. It is something that we will be tracking over time. So we can report out on future meetings, both to the NYSERDA board as well as to our stakeholders.
Okay, thanks so much. All right, next question is also from Samantha Wilt. Why does Empower Plus funding get cut in half in years 2 and 3, given how popular and oversubscribed the program is? And Courtney, I'm gonna turn to you.
This is.
Anthony, do you want to take that one? It's not really a program question, it's more of a funding decision.
Sorry, we're trying to unmute here in New York City. This is David Sandbank. You know, it's our priority in Empower Plus to make sure we keep a steady state of revenue for the Empower Plus program to be successful moving forwards. So we're always going to continue to find those funding resources. Right now, we're making sure that we can provide a program that's going to be able to serve as many low-income homeowners, you know, across the state of New York. And we'll continue to look for future funding. But we feel with the RGGI amount that we have allocated in this plan, it's a very good amount of money to get us to that state. And we'll continue to look for more funds moving forwards in future years.
Perfect, thanks so much, David. And I'm actually gonna ask that you address the next question, which is, I was thrilled to see an increase in funding for Empower from the August 2025 plan to the new amendment on your website. Could you please discuss in more detail how that increase will impact the overall budget for Empower and the number of households that will be served in the 2025, 2026, and 2026, 2027 years?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. The additional RGGI funds is going to really do a good job at helping us maintain the current steady pace that we have now, moving through 26 and 27. So we're excited about that. It's additional funds above and beyond the EE and BE funds that are going to be implemented and come our way in the first beginning in 2026. So in combination between those two funding sources, as well as several other funding sources, we plan on keeping that steady state that we've seen in 24 and 25 for those future years. So the additional RGGI money is going to make a substantial difference. We're excited about it, and it allows us to keep moving forwards with Empower Plus as we have seen in the past.
Perfect, thank you so much, David. So there's another question from Roger Chiesa. Will there be a written response to all comments submitted? We're going to make this recording available, and we will be reporting out on the responses that we receive in the context of the NYSERDA board meeting, including where changes were made based on today. Next question. From Lisa Marshall. Michael, I'm going to route this to you. When will we be able to see the heat pump rebates for new construction? Will they vary by utility territory as they do under New York Clean Heat? And when will these rebates be available?
Thanks for the question, Lisa. We're very excited about this program. We are working very hard to pull it together. As those who have been following understand, there is also a whole proceeding related to ratepayer funded programs and support. And so right now, we are still in discussions with our key partners around exact rebate levels and timing of releasing this program. So I realize that's a little bit of a non-answer, but I would say that we'll make sure to capture interested folks' information and keep them abreast as this program gets developed and is ready to be launched and available. It will be statewide, though, and serve the entire residential sector.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that answer, Michael. We have another question coming in from Rebecca M. She asked that Jason please provide 3 to 5 examples of how the collaborative's comments and feedback have been incorporated into program planning. Jason, would you be able to comment on that?
Yeah, I'll comment now, and we could certainly follow up individually if it's most helpful. There's a number of examples I would point to, so let's start with just the DAC compensation method in general. That's when we engage individuals for their time based on program feedback or program design and improvements. And it's been through a few different iterations of how much that time is, how the time is compensated and how the reimbursement's handled. And so the dollar amount that's provided for time based on whether it's a 2-hour engagement, a 4-hour engagement, an 8-hour engagement, that's something that was feedback was provided and that informed how we do it. The method for compensating is another area. The members of the Energy Equity Collaborative had been getting paid for each meeting. That was requiring time on both hands. It was requiring someone to submit a request for reimbursement from a collaborative member for each of the engagements that they had, then processed on our end and then provided back to them. Instead, going forward, we worked with the collaborative members to develop a process where they will have basically a contract, if you will, that outlines the work that they'll be doing and the amount that they'll be compensated for, and then it becomes a simple reimbursement mechanism. On the K-12 STEM awareness, when that program was presented in its early days, there was a significant amount of feedback in terms of the needs that were seen within schools, within vocational training centers, within Boys and Girls Clubs and BOCES, our labor partners who are on that call, on the collaborative from organized labor, provided feedback in terms of how that work could best transition into things like pre-apprenticeship programs, and that directly affected the manner in which the program will be designed, the types of activities that will be supported, and also the flexibility that will be provided. And again, I'm happy to follow up offline with any additional examples or if there are specific technical areas or program topics that are of interest.
Perfect. So we're going to give folks on the phone one or 2 more minutes to ask any remaining questions, and then we'll briefly cover next steps before wrapping up this meeting. And we really appreciate the questions that have been submitted so far, as well as your feedback. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this meeting with a quick discussion of next steps. So the draft operating plan amendment is posted on NYSERDA's website at the link that is provided on the slide. Folks are welcome to send written comments to the email address that has been provided by close of business through Friday, January 9th, 2026, which gives folks some time before and after the last 2 weeks of December, while still keeping us on track for our January NYSERDA board meeting, when we will provide the board with the operating plan amendment for consideration and approval. And last but not least, we want to just gently reiterate that this recording and the slides will be made available on NYSERDA's website in the next 24 hours. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much to all of our NYSERDA and DEC presenters as well. And we look forward to providing a final version of the RGGI operating plan soon.